Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So let's start with our prayers as others are still joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnana Minandasya Jnanancha Salakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mayyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saranadita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shibhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Radhanath Swami Namne Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Charini Nirvisheshanavadi Paschatya Deshtarani Mukam Karati Vachalam Pangum Langhete Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dintarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining today's class, which was adjusted to today. So thank you for accommodating. So we are at a very, by the way, wishing everyone just out of the Pitri Paksha, entering the Navaratri. So Pitri Paksha is a once a year time where one can offer oblations to the Pitris. We have been discussing about Pitrilok in our recent cosmology discussions. So Pitrilok is like the entry level to the heavenly planets. So generally, departed souls go there first. Either they reside there or they progress further. Of course, the king of the Pitris is Yamaraj, and he is an important character in today's conversation. And of course, after the Pitri Paksha, we had the Mahalaya Amavasya yesterday, which is also known as the Sarva Pitri Amavasya, which is the day where ideally one should offer oblations once a month on every new moon day, but if not possible, at least once a year, this day is considered most suitable for offering Pinda Tarpan to one's ancestors. So this is one of the sacred dharmic duties which every grihastha, unless one has taken sannyas, each person is obliged to do in the family. Of course, typically the eldest in the family does it for their ancestors, but somebody has to do it. If the eldest doesn't do it, then then somebody else should do it. So this is a duty. If neglected, of course, there are sins of neglect, chakru. So these are important principles. Krishna has highlighted the principle of yajna. So a living being who is born is obliged various personalities in this world, the devatas, the ancestors, the pitris, the sages, other living beings, animals, trees, so on and so forth. So one is expected to pay back the rina, otherwise one becomes a thief. So these are duties one should perform, and one should hopefully train one's next generation so that they'll be performed for us. Of course, ideally, also in Krishna consciousness, we say that a person who's already a pure devotee, he doesn't need to perform all this. So that is true, but we shouldn't be very hasty to put that sticker on ourselves and call ourselves pure devotees. The example that is set by the greatest of pure devotees, including incarnations of the Supreme Lord, is to follow the duties that have been prescribed for mankind. So we don't try to become better than them. We don't try to become better than Advaita Acharya, Lord Chaitanya, Ramchandra, who followed these rituals. They have set the example for us. Let's not be over smart. So it is true that for a pure devotee, one is free from all obligations. And through devotional service, one becomes free from all obligations. But at the same time, Krishna has also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that even a self-realized soul, even though he may be free from duty, maybe some of you are transcendental, but even then Krishna has advised to you still follow the duties to set an example for others. Okay? So in either case, we have to follow. Unless we are in an Avadhuta platform. But if you're in an Avadhuta platform, you wouldn't be attending my class. So I can safely say you're not. So anyway, so I'm just mentioning this so that we don't, sometimes we get too excited and overrate ourselves, be much more advanced than we are. So we should follow all the duties, whether they are being a good student, whether they are being a good employee, whether they are being a good son, whether it's being a good husband, whether it's being a good citizen, being a patriotic citizen towards one's country. So all these things, while of course, ultimately not losing sight of the reality that ultimately I'm transcendental, but while I'm in this body, I have to perform the necessary duties as a service to Krishna. So that is the ideal consciousness. And we should strive towards that standard. So anyway, so that is with respect to that. So simple tarpan, I also did some simple tarpan for my ancestors. So there are various ways. Anyway, I don't want to go into that topic. Then of course now the Navaratri season has started, which is season of honoring the Supreme Lord's energy, Vishnu Maya. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu, Vishnu Mayeti Samvita. She who is known as Vishnu Maya amongst all the names, the divine energy of Vishnu, who is situated in all living entities as power, as intelligence, as devotion. We have so many hundreds of descriptions. So all that we see in this world is a manifestation of, the Divine Mother. Krishna also says that this is my divine energy. So even though it is material, it is still divine because it's connected to the Lord and in service of the Lord. It is illusion for us because we are disconnected from the Lord, but the Lord's energy is not disconnected from the Lord. The Lord's energy is always divine. So this wonderful season of Navaratri ultimately concludes the wonderful Dasera festival. And that is the auspicious day on which Ramchandra killed Ravan. So we are entering a very beautiful season. So currently you can say Ram and Ravan's Yuddha is going on. And eventually Ravan will be killed. So of course our obeisances to the Divine Mother, who's the mother of all living entities. Krishna says that he, through his glance, impregnates all the living entities. Aham bija pradapita, into the womb of material energy. So material energy is providing us everything, all our abilities. It's Krishna's energy, but it is the manifestation is through Krishna's energy. So all that we see within the realm of Trigunamai Maya, all that we have is coming from her. And at a spiritual level, the original uh, transcendental energy, which is Radharani, is the original form of the external energy, and she is ultimately the source of devotion and transcendental existence. So our humble obeisances, and we seek the blessings, the Divine Mother, both in her form in this manifested universe and also in her original transcendental form as Srimati Radharani. And our prayers always to her that she takes us closer to her Lord and Master, Supreme Personality of God. That is our ultimate. So happy Navaratri to all as well. So we are continuing our discussion on a very interesting topic, which is it's in the first chapter of the 6th canto, which is the story of Ajamila. So we discussed roughly the first 20 verses of this chapter, and we are going to continue today. The pastime spans over 2-3 chapters if I'm not wrong. In the last class, we discussed kind of the background before which this particular story is narrated. And summarily, the background is something like this. The background is that after hearing the description of the hellish planets, Parikshit Maharaj, being concerned about living entities, who may have to suffer these kind of terrible, terrible punishments, asks him how one can be freed. So different means of becoming free from sinful reactions were discussed. First is atonement, which is the Karma Kanda method, which was not particularly appreciated. It was described as an elephant bathing. Then the method of Jnana, or acquiring of knowledge and progressing towards liberation, was mentioned. But even that was declared by Parikshit Maharaj as not fully effective, because it doesn't burn away the seed. Just like even though you may eliminate by cutting a forest of bamboo, still the weeds, the seeds of the bamboo are still under the ground. The only way that one can totally do away with all weeds of material existence is the resprouting of material desires, is if the seed of material desire is totally burnt away through the power of devotion. And this was mentioned, and Parikshit Maharaj was very, very happy, because that's the answer he was looking for. Because being a pure devotee himself, he understood that ultimately the root cause of sinful desire within the heart of the living entity is his desire to enjoy independent of the Lord. And that can be fully overcome, irreversibly and fully overcome, only through the process of giving up the false ego, or even including the desire to be the Lord, by ultimately taking full shelter of the Lord in pure devotional service. And he glorifies the process of devotional service by especially making a statement that this process of devotional service is so powerful that even if a person has not completely purified himself or completely come to the point of surrendering himself to the Lord's lotus feet, but somehow he has become attracted to the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes because of some good fortune of association with devotees, and he somehow takes shelter of the Lord even once, out of genuine affection, attraction to the Lord, then such a person has become so fortunate that even by that one attempt, even though that attempt is not persisted, which means it's not in a constant state of surrender, but an occasional, once he has done it, if it is done sincerely with proper faith and devotion, even such a surrender, even once, is considered so powerful and so effective that even such a person never ever sees Yamaraj or his Yamadutas, even in his dreams. Now, this may seem like a very far out statement. Sometimes we hear something which is too far out. And you think, this is some exaggeration, this is some over glorification. And this often happens in the context of pure devotional service, because actually pure devotional service is so very powerful, so very extraordinary, that its effects are so powerful that sometimes one really wonders whether it's pure devotional service or the holy name. One sometimes really wonders, really? Oh, this seems too far out. How can it be so easy? How can, just by uttering the name of the Lord once, one can achieve these kind of results? So understanding that Parikshit Maharaj will also be curious, and understanding that it's not just Parikshit Maharaj in the audience, but so many others in the audience who may have this doubt. Because while Parikshit Maharaj was the main audience, there are so many sages sitting there. Some of them are, karmis in the sense that they are karma kandiya rishis. Some are jnanis, some are yogis. Of course, there are some bhaktas as well. Shukadeva Goswami, to substantiate the point that he has just mentioned, he says, in this regard, what I just mentioned to you, saintly persons and scholarly people narrate one old historical episode about the conversation between Vishnu Dutas, the order carriers of Vishnu, and Yamaraj, and Yamaraj servants. Servants of Yamaraj and servants of Vishnu. They had a conversation. So please, I will now tell you about this story and the background that led to this particular conversation. So normally we are so eager to hear about so many gossips. What did this film heroine say to this film star? Everybody is so interested. What did this politician say to that politician? We are very interested. But the real interesting subject matter is where there is Harikatha. Because there the profound truths about the nature of reality, the process of attaining the highest goal, are discussed in a pure way. That is why those kathas are considered worthy of hearing and the most desirable subject matters to hear. So the pastime goes like this. Shukadeva Goswami says that this particular story happened in a city known as Kanya Kubja. In today's time, the city is known as Kanauj, where there was a Brahman. His name was Ajamila. In his early years, he was quite a pious Brahman. Followed the regulatory principles, was truthful, was engaged. Because he was a Brahman, in most homes, there would be a Shaligram Shila. It is said he would worship the Shaligram Shila. So there was some devotional activity also he had done in his early years. So one day it so happened that he had gone out somewhere and he was coming back towards his home, that Ajamila happened to see in a particular lonely place a low-class woman, a prostitute, who was like a maid servant, was also a prostitute. She was in a very compromised position with a low-class Shudra man. They were, quite intimate. Both of them were drunk. And because of being drunk and not in her senses, this young prostitute, her clothes had also become a bit loose and she was not covering herself properly. So Ajamil, as a young Brahmana, just happened to be passing by and he just happened to see the Shudra man enjoying with this low-class prostitute woman. So even though he was from a Brahman family, even though he was following regulative principles at that point in time, when he saw that the nature is that when one sees something like this, because one has been having lusty tendencies since time immemorial, suddenly those tendencies get awakened when the right stimulus is there in the environment. And this happens. This happens to everyone. It's not an Ajamil specific case. Sometimes we may also wonder. I mean, it may not happen exactly like this, but it can be any kind of material desire. We may be wondering, oh, suddenly where did this material desire come from? I never thought I had a desire like this. Suddenly this person became very lusty. I remember once I was having a conversation with the Surnas Radhanath Maharaj. I'll not go into the context because that's a long story. So I told Maharaj, I don't know from where this kind of a desire has come in my mind. It was never there. How did it suddenly manifest? I mean, it was nothing too big or far out. I mean, nothing like this. So I'm not suggesting anything like this. It was something in a totally different context and situation. But this principle. So Maharaj immediately said that the same thing which I just mentioned. He said that it's not that a desire has come out of nowhere. It was always there. But when the right time and situation comes, these desires. See, the Paramatma remembers all that we have been desiring since time immemorial. So when the right time and situation comes, oh, the bubble, Paramatma will remind, hey, you wanted to do this? You still want to do? Still want to do? So all these samskaras are resting within the chitta. That's why we have to clean. If you don't clean and get rid of them, they will keep popping. And that is why devotional service is important. Cheto udarpana marja. So Ajamil became very disturbed. And unfortunately for him, he saw and he kept seeing for some time because he suddenly got so attracted. But after that, he said, no, this is not good. I should not see. Then, with great difficulty, he tried to remember instructions of scriptures and various mantras and he tried to control his mind. Finally, he somehow managed to walk away from that place. But he was so affected in his heart by lusty desires on seeing that low-class woman that he just couldn't get away that sight from his mind. And he continuously continued to contemplate on what he had seen. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangata sanjayate kama. That seeing once and getting agitated is not that bad. That is understandable. But when the mind starts contemplating on the same thing again and again and again, then attachment will come. Then eventually the attachment transforms to lust. So this is the lesson for the sadhaka. In Kali Yuga, we cannot even close our eyes and walk. We just go on the highway and drive. We'll see a billboard and we will see something like what Ajamila saw. You don't even have to go to the forest. You don't have to do anything fancy. You put the TV on, you'll see what Ajamil was seeing. Everywhere. So Unfortunately, we are living in such situations, and that's why the situation Kali is so challenging. But the real problem comes when one continues to contemplate. So somehow, perhaps because he did not have the right association, did not have the right guidance, he was not attending Bhagavatam classes regularly. So he couldn't get that thought of his mind. He was contemplating. And he became so attracted to her that finally he sought her out. He reached out to her, got in touch with her, started associating with her, became so attached to her that finally he brought her to his house as a maid first. Maid means as a housemaid, a live-in maid. And he started associating with her. And he was so attracted to her that he would spend money on her rather than spending money actually on his own family. Being a Brahmana, he had a very qualified, nice, saintly Brahmana, beautiful wife, it is said, the Bhagavad. But he started neglecting her and started associating too much with this low-class lady. To the point that he finally drove away his legally married wife and children and started staying exclusively with this prostitute, whom he practically now treated as his wife. And both were, it's not said that he married, whatever, whether it was live-in or they got married, I don't know. But he started living with her. And what would you expect when you are staying with a low-class prostitute? Very soon he gave up all his Brahmanical principles. He stopped his Sandhya Vandan, his puja of the Shaligram, following of the regulative principles. He started breaking regulative principles, he started drinking liquor, he started eating abominable things. He gave up his worship. He fell down altogether. And the Bhagavatam says he fell down altogether because not only was he associating with that prostitute and doing sinful activities, but he was eating the food cooked by her. Also an interesting point. This is how the consciousness gets affected. And to satisfy the materialistic desires of the prostitute, because what is the prostitute interested in? The prostitute was interested only in getting all kinds, extracting money from him. So she would continuously pester him to get more and more money to satisfy her desires. And he started doing all kinds of sinful activities to get money for her. He started cheating people. He started gambling. He would even loot and steal. And in this way, he maintained his wife and his children. In fact, with the prostitute, he had 10 children. It is said in this sinful manner, having actually abandoned his legally wedded wife, he started staying with this prostitute, and in this abominable way, he had a family of many children, around 10 children, and he spent 88 years of his life like that. So he became a pretty old man. It is not mentioned at what point he started this, but he was a young man. So let's say even if he was 20, so he spent 88, he was 108 years old. But still his desire. See, this is the thing about sinful enjoyment. The difference between dharmic enjoyment and sinful enjoyment is when you perform dharmic enjoyment because of the samskaras and the yajnas involved, over time one becomes detached. But when one takes to sinful enjoyment against the principles of scriptures, one is unable to achieve that benefit of gradually becoming purified and detached from material. So he was 88, but he was still fully absorbed in Grihastha life. Correct? By Prabhupada says by 50, one should say, enough, pack up. So many of us, including myself, are almost 50 or around 50. So hopefully all of us are doing our planning for the remaining part of our life. Hopefully by this time, we should have come to the point of enough that we now devote the rest of my life somehow to cultivating it. So at least this thought should come. Of course, we all understand that each one has his own practical situations to deal with. So it is not like 50 and you press button and resign, not like that. But that spirit should be there, that gradually we have to disentangle from material life. So 50 is a good milestone to, if not do it, at least very seriously work towards it. So 88 years of his life passed like that. So out of the 10 sons he had, it is said the youngest one he had named Narayana. Perhaps his name Narayan because he's from Brahmana family and it is conventional to name the children around the names of the Lord, especially in Brahmana families. So he had named him Narayan and he was still a very young boy. It is not mentioned how old was he, but he was clearly very young because it is very explicitly mentioned in the Bhagavad that Ajamila was so attached and attracted to this boy because of the way he was speaking in a broken language. Small children, so sweetly they will speak when they are, they are not able to speak very distinctly in a broken language. When he would be eating, the little child would come and jump on his lap, and as he would eat, he would be feeding him. Whatever he would drink, the child would also come and want to drink. So in that way, his attachment and affection towards this little boy Narayan grew more and more and more. So he was always absorbed in being with this child, playing with this child, always being around. He just enjoyed this particular child's activity. And he was so absorbed in materialistic family life that Ajamil had become totally forgetful that 88 years had passed after he had started staying with the prostitute. What does that mean? That means death is coming near. He should have started planning to go towards the forest at 50 years of age. So he has probably already over 100 now. So 2.5 centuries, but still no planning to retire. Still fully absorbed in materialistic life. So the Bhagavatam says Ajamil could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and death was about to come. So as the prescribed duration of his life was about to get exhausted, three very, very awkward looking, deformed bodily features, personalities with fierce, twisted faces, with hair standing on end, not out of ecstasy, but ugly in an ugly way, with ropes in their hands. They approached this Ajamil who was lying down very sick, having his last few breaths. Just imagine. Ajamil is lying there having his last few breaths. His little boy Narayan is still playing around and he's still looking. He's not yet ready to give up his body. He's still looking at that young boy, still getting attracted to him, still feeling affection for him. So attached. And suddenly, as his time is up, this is how the Yamadutas are trained. For sinful people, when their time is up, they get advance notice. They get pick-up orders from Yamaraj department to be picked up. Ajamil from Kanauj, so and so place. And it is said, even though it's not mentioned here, they have hounds. The hounds sniff out those people where, and they lead them exactly to that. So they don't need GPS. They have this hound GPS. I don't know how it works, but they can smell out, it is said. So they came there to take him away the abode of Yamaraj. Now this thing Ajamil totally was not expecting. Suddenly, seeing these terrible personalities with these ropes in their hand, Yamapasha, became absolutely bewildered. I just want to mention something interesting before we proceed ahead in the story, because this point we had discussed a couple of classes ago about who are these Yamadutas, who becomes Yamadutas. So I happened to listen to a class where one of my very senior godbrothers mentioned something about the Yamadutas. So apparently, now I do not know which scripture this is mentioned, but obviously it is from the scriptures, or it is mentioned by one of the acharyas. It said that actually these Yamadutas are not actually sinful people. They are actually pious residents of Pitrulok who volunteer to take this job in Yamaraj's department to serve him. They are actually pious people. And that is why they are actually well versed in the rules of dharma, because they are trained. Of course, they go through thorough training. Dharma, adharma. The king of the Pitris is Yamaraj. All the Pitris are his subjects. So he chooses the best of the Pitris and gives them this department to punish. And this Prabhu was describing very nicely. He says that actually the Pitrulok Vasis are actually quite pretty. And they are not terrible looking with twisted faces. But they put on that kind of an attire to do their job, because they have to be scary and terrible to scare the sinful people. So I don't know what they do. I don't know whether they do makeup or they mystically take that form. That is not mentioned. But originally, these residents are not, they're not sinful people. They're actually pious souls. Man, that department of justice. So you can think of them as Yamaraj is the head of the justice system, and these are the enforcement officers. So they go and hunt down and bring these people and put them in prison, so to say. Prisons being hellish planets. So these three Yamadutas came. They said three came. Why three? It is said because he had performed sins with his body, with his words, and with his mind. Three kinds of three Yamadutas. And Ajamil totally freaked out. The moment near death is anyway very scary, because the whole body, the life airs go for a toss and the senses become weak, and it's already very, very scary. On top of that, he sees this vision of these three Yamadutas who are coming there and are about to snatch out his soul from the core of his heart with their ropes, pull him out. And as he sees this, he panics so much. And his heart immediately goes towards the most dear object of his attachment, his little son Narayan. He was just playing just little distance away. And looking at his little boy Narayan and seeing this very scary scene, feeling so fearful, with tears in his eyes, thinking of his son Narayan, he called out to him, Narayan. Correct? So sometimes when we are in a very difficult situation, whoever is nearby, probably there was nobody else nearby. He was with his son, his youngest son, that little boy. So out of fear and a sense of helplessness, called out the holy name of Narayan. And when this happened, something very amazing happened. The Yamadutas were still in the process of trying to pull out. They had not yet pulled out his soul. They were about to perform the operation. And he chanted the name of Narayan. Suddenly, as they were about to snatch his soul, instantly on the spot, 4 personalities appeared. 4 Vishnu Dutas, the carriers of Lord Vishnu, order carriers of Lord Vishnu. Because they heard the name of their Lord being chanted by someone at the time of death, instantly they appeared. They heard the name of Narayan from the mouth of Ajamila. And they came because somehow out of desperation, somehow out of fear, Ajamil had managed to chant the name of Narayan without offense. Namabhas, not totally without offense, but in the clearing stage. At least he did not do Nam Aparad. It wasn't Shuddha Nam. The Acharya said he did Namabhas. Actually, what happened, the Acharyas explained, 2-3 things happened because of which the Vishnu Dutas got attracted. Initially, he chanted the name of Narayan referring to his son. In a state of great anxiety and helplessness. So first thing, he chanted in great helplessness. So some acharyas explain that anybody who chants the name of the Lord in a helpless state, that is namabhas, and that also qualifies at the time of death to attract the attention of the Vishnudutas. Some acharyas explain, say that when he chanted the name of Narayana calling out to his son, even though actually he called out to his son, because he uttered the name of Narayan, because he had performed devotional service earlier on in his life, he subsequently, after calling out to his son, the name of Narayan reminded him of Narayan. You understand? You call out to somebody. Has it happened sometimes, you suddenly call out to someone. Oh, Madhusudan. You're calling out to a person whose name is Madhusudan. But suddenly, after you utter the name Madhusudan, your mind suddenly remembers Krishna. Has it ever happened to any of you? It happens many times to me. Suddenly, you're uttering the name of somebody, but then suddenly the mind remembers the actual object that the name refers to. So in that way, he remembered Narayan also, having chanted, and because of his previous devotional activities, was able to remember Narayan at the time of death with devotion. So this is how certain acharyas explain. Net, he managed to qualify the threshold that was necessary in terms of his utterance being of, not being offensive, not being namaparad, was able to attract the attention of the Vishnu Dutas. And Vishnu Dutas, if anyone helplessly calls out the name of the Lord, nothing else matters. There is no other consideration. Instantly they will come. Instantly the 4 Vishnu Dutas appeared on the spot. Now these 3 Yamadutas, just imagine, they're already busy. They're just about to pull the soul out. And these 4 Vishnu Dutas suddenly appear on the scene. And in a great, grave, rumbling sound, they stop. not physically, but by speaking. They forbid the Yamadutas take away the soul of Ajamil. And up until this point, Ajamil was in panic. His soul was about to be snatched away. And he's seeing all this happening. He's seeing the Yamadutas, he's seeing the Vishnudutas also appear. And the Yamaduta suddenly seeing these Vishnudutas and seeing these Vishnudutas forbid them, they became bewildered. Arey, ye kahan se aa gaye? Who are these people who suddenly appear? Huh? Correct? Because sometimes, let's say, a police does a police raid to catch some thief. Police go to the spot, catch somebody, and suddenly some other officers from somewhere come. Say, no, you leave him. He's our. This is not your jurisdiction. This is our jurisdiction. And police is thinking, Arey Baba, this is my jurisdiction. Who are you? Who's coming here and challenging our jurisdiction? So Yamadutas start asking these Vishnudutas, who are you? Whose servants are you? From where have you come? And why you are preventing us from doing our job? This is my duty. This is my 9 to 5 job. Yamaduta. And he's on my list. See? Who are you? Are you some Devata from the heavenly planets or some Upadevata? Or are you amongst the best of the devotees? And then they observed the forms of these Vishnudutas. And as they observed the forms of the Vishnudutas are described very beautifully. So I will just recite these verses. Very beautiful. Sarve Padma Palakshaha Kausheya Vasasaha Kirtinaha Kundalino Lasat Pushkaramalinaha Sarvecha Nutana Vayasaha Sarvecharu Chaturbhujaha Nur Nishangasi Gada Shankha Chakram Bhujashriyaha Disho Vitimira Lokaha Kurvantah Svena Tejasa Kim Artham Dharma Palasya Kinkaran no Nishedhata. So in these verses, very beautifully, the description is given that the Yamadutas referring to the Vishnudutas. So you are some extraordinary person. Your eyes are like lotus petals. Because the Yamadutas' eyes are not at all pretty. Your eyes are like lotus petals. You are dressed in beautiful yellow silken garments. You are decorated with lotus garlands. Very attractive, beautiful helmets on your head. Your bodies are so fresh and beautiful. 4 beautiful long arms you have carrying the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. And you yourself are so effulgent that just by your effulgence, the darkness of this area is gone. Who are you, my dear sir? And more importantly, why are you obstructing my duty? Vishnudutas, they were addressed like this by the Yamadutas. They just smiled and with very deep grey voice, like a rumbling cloud, very authoritative. And Yamadutas could see just the demeanor of the Vishnudutas and their voice, they could understand that they have a power which is far superior. See, sometimes you don't know who somebody is, but the way he comes, the way he behaves, the way he talks, you know, this is some very important person. Must be some very, because they carry a particular aura, the way they speak, the way they behave. They exude power. You see, these are some very, very powerful beings. But nobody actually interferes. Everybody is scared of us. Nobody has ever come and interfered in our job and said, why are you picking up this delivery? It's not your job. So when Vishnudutas were questioned like this, they said, oh, you are servants of Yamaraj. They said, yes. Qualified Yamadutas. We have done bachelor's in Yamadutology, whatever that is. We have been especially selected from Pitriloka to perform this service. We have gone through many years of training. We have been taught how to catch the souls, how to pull them out, how to select, who to take, where to deliver, how to pick up, how to pack. We are expert logistics partners to serve the Yamaraj department, bringing and transporting of sinful souls to the right destination safely. So Vishnuduta has asked Raviduta, so this is a very beautiful conversation. Now, please mind that as this conversation is happening, Ajamila has not died because they were just about to pull out his soul and they have been stopped. He has not died. He was about to die, not died. And he is witnessing live this conversation. So now, at this moment, a Bhagavatam class is about to begin. So, Ajamil, Bhagavatam class is from the Bhagavad, direct conversation. Ajamil is about to die, and suddenly this class begins between the 4 Vishnudutas and the 3 Yamadutas. This beautiful conversation, and Ajamil is listening. So Vishnudutas asked the Yamadutas, if you are actually servants of Yamaraj, as you are claiming, that you have been trained and you are properly qualified, you showed your badge also, showed a certificate also. So I am going to ask you some questions. You please answer them. You are actually proper representatives of Yamaraj. Tell us, what is the meaning of religious principles? What is the meaning of dharma? I am asking you basic questions. Very basic question. Definition of dharma. Definition of adharma. What are the symptoms of adharma? What is the process of punishing people? Who is actually liable to be punished? Every karmi who performs sinful activities is liable to be punished? Or only some are liable to be punished? Have you gone through your course properly? All these books you have read? Please tell me. Start from what is dharma, what is that? So there was a pop quiz. On the job quiz, which Vishnuduta has asked the Yamaduta. No, this is a very interesting, because these are very, very important questions. So please listen to these answers very carefully. Ajamil was also listening very, very carefully. So these Yamadutas were, quite thorough in their knowledge. So these are not altu-faltu people. They are, pious souls who have studied properly. They know what is dharma and adharma. So they are very confident. Yeah, I'll answer all your 5 questions. Very simple. Whatever is prescribed in the Vedas as one's duties is dharma. According to one's birth and qualities, one is in a particular situation, one of the varnas and ashramas, and there are duties according to that. Following the duties according to those which are prescribed in the scriptures is dharma. Because these duties are not materially concocted duties. These duties are coming from the Vedas, and Vedas are coming directly from the Supreme Lord. So following the prescriptions of the principles as given in the Vedas is dharma, and whatever is opposed to that, not following, is adharma. Very simple. So this was the correct answer. So we got 5 points for the first answer. First and second answer. That is the correct answer. And he said that, what I am telling to you is not my answer. We have heard this directly from the principal of our college. Yamaraj came and told us this is the definition of dharma, adharma. So better don't challenge. Because as far as the Yamadutas are concerned, for them, Yamaraj is like God. And they appreciate Yamaraj like God for the reason that Yamaraj is a very, very special potency. Yamaraj is almost like the Paramatma for them. Why? Because only the Paramatma is able to understand each person's desires and karmas very, very clearly. Of course, he is not the Paramatma, Yamaraj, but because he's connected to the Supreme Lord by that special power that the Supreme Lord is given, Yamaraj is able to assess and understand each person's desires and karmas very, very accurately to be able to judge things properly. Because, yeah, this is dharma and this is adharma. And the Vedas have been given by the Supreme Lord. Yes, the Supreme Lord, he is staying in his divine abode, but he has created this entire material manifestation composed of the three modes, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and different living entities who are conditioned souls within this world based on their desires that they have cultivated because of their association with these three modes. They take different kinds of bodies. Even within the human species, they are some are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. And according to their situation, they have different duties according to Varnashram. And whatever activities any human being performs, there are various witnesses of the activities. The sun, the moon, the fire, the sky, the air, the devatas, the evening, the day, the night, the eight directions, water, land, and the super soul himself. All of these are witness. You ask me who is liable for punishment? The answer to that question is he who is confirmed by these various witnesses that they have deviated from their prescribed duties. All of them are keeping logs. All these witnesses are keeping logs. When they say, and they give their all account to Yamaraj, and Yamaraj is doing the final assessment of the balance. Those who have deviated from their prescribed duties, they are punishable according to their sinful acts. Actually, the Yamadutas say, actually almost everybody is liable for punishment. Because it is the nature of this material world that you cannot not do sins. That's the nature. So, of course, it's not that everybody has to go to hell, but reactions are given according to the proportion of the violation of dharma. Why are you asking this? You seem to be sinless. You don't even seem to be from the material world. But you should know that in this material world, there are mainly karmis. They act piously or impiously. Usually they are mixed because they are influenced by the modes. And because of being influenced by the modes, people in this world are always active and they cannot avoid performing some sin or the other. That's why the answer to your questions is ultimately everyone is punishable. Because no one can be totally free from sin as long as they are influenced by the three modes of material nature. There are different kinds of living beings. Yamadutas are continuing. They are giving their class. They are explaining their knowledge now. What they learnt in their school. And this is all true. Huh? Whatever they are saying is all true. None of this is false. We'll come to what the Vishnu Dutta's arguments are a little later because their knowledge is bachelor's degree. Vishnu Dutta's knowledge is PhD level. They know the deepest of the deepest things, which are beyond the level that Yamadutas are trained for. So that is the zone of pure devotional service. Anyway, both are serving the Lord their own ways. So the Yamadutas continue to explain. Says that living beings based on the modes they are influenced, they are either peaceful if they are Sattvagun, they are restless if they are in Rajogun, and they are foolish if they are in Tamogun. That's why they are either happy, in the middle, or unhappy, one of these three states. And based on their nature, we can deduce, based on what they have done in the past, based on what their desires, based on what their mode. We are trained, our department is trained. We have special AI in processing, figure out based on his desires and karma, what kind of activities he will be inclined towards in his next life. So Yamaraj and his department does the needful to give him the right kind of body and right kind of situation. Our Yamaraj, our boss, Yamaraj is very powerful. He's almost like Brahma. He's connected to the super soul. He's almost like the Paramatma because he has access to all the information about the desires and karmas of all living entities. He's able to observe. See somebody instantly, he knows everything that he has done. And he can not only know that, he also knows what this person will do in the future. So he's perfect in giving justice. These witnesses are perfect. Yamaraj's assessment is perfect. Our department is Pakka department. Why you are coming in the middle and, creating a ruckus? So they go on and explain. They give a lot more philosophical points. I don't want to go into each and everything. But essentially, the summum bona, the summary of what they say is, ultimately living entities, they are trying to enjoy this material world through the mind and the senses, and they engage in different kinds of activities. They are trapped because of their false ego and because of their desire to enjoy. They're trapped just like a silkworm is trapped in a cocoon, which is spun by its own saliva. Similarly, the living entity is trapped in the web of his own karma. And he's so tightly bound that his karma is actually pushing him in a particular direction to act and behave and experience things in a way. And he's so bound, he doesn't even understand how all these things are working. Actually, living entities are really, really tightly bound. Krishna also says this very beautifully. We are actually so bound that we don't even understand we are bound. That is the problem. That is what Maya is. Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita that each person is impelled continuously to do activities based on the three modes that they have acquired. Even for a moment, he cannot stop from doing activity. So this is a deep science. And Yamaraj is the principal of this university, who knows exactly how all these things work. And he's very good at facilitating this department by giving the right kind of destination, various kinds of living entities. So basic principle is what you deserve and what you desire. Combined assessment is made and the suitable situation is given. Some may go upward, some may go to hellish planets, some may come back to Earth. All these assessments are made. Not that necessarily everybody goes to hellish planets. But our department, our boss, Yamaraj, is in charge of all this. And he asked this last question about in what situations one is punishable. He says, and let me tell you that a living entity who has performed sins is punishable if by the time of his death he has not done prayaschitta or atonement for the sins he has performed. All the sins minus atonement, net balance. Then we will come to get him according to his net balance. But yes, there is one more scenario which we have heard about, that if in the human, and normally people cannot escape from this sinful reactions and from this trap of material energy. But we have heard from our boss in one of his lectures that in the human form of life, if somehow one gets a chance to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, then there is a chance to become free from this entanglement. That much we know. We are not very expert in this topic, but this was marked as an important question. So we have by-hearted the answer to this question. So mentioned that you asked about exceptions, no? That the one exception was mentioned. Atonement and association with the Supreme Lord. And just in case if you're asking specifically about this guy Ajamil, because you have come to interfere in his case, let me tell you our assessment of his records. Why we have come here? Because, along with the delivery notice, we also have his whole account statement attached. In the beginning, this man, Brahmana, Ajamil, was very good. Studied Vedas, he was very truthful, he had all good qualities. He was controlling his senses and doing everything. He was very respectful to his guru, to his parents, to his elderly. But then, because once when he had gone out to collect fruits and flowers for worship as instructed by his father, he happened to, on his way back, see this Shudra and this prostitute embracing and kissing, and he became so agitated. And then they describe the whole episode of what happened and how he came and then how he brought her home eventually as a maid. Gradually, the maid became the wife and the wife became the maid. And finally, the wife was thrown out. So the chaste, service-oriented wife was, disposed of, and the low-class woman became the woman of the. And he was unable to control because he was so disturbed. He was unable to control his lusty desires, and he was always attracted to her because of physical attraction. Just like the sun and the moon become eclipsed by Rahu and Ketu. Similarly, this Brahmana's all good qualities became eclipsed because of his attachment to this woman. And he gave up all his good qualities and he took up to the sinful life. All the money he had inherited from his father he spent on the sinful woman. He gave up all his Brahmanical duties. And after that, he started engaging in sinful activities to acquire money. He also threw away his beautiful young chaste wife. Because of all these sins, he is now, for 88 years, he has been leading sinful life, having transgressed all Vedic rules and regulations. He is now liable to be punished. And by the way, he did not perform any atonement. No, he's still busy in his materialistic life. So much account, no adjustments. So, you see, my department responsible, Yamra's department, and I am his authorized agent. So you see, we have presented our case. He will be punished accordingly. So these were the arguments. This has brought us to the end of the chapter. So this is the context and the explanation which the Yamadutas give to the Vishnudutas. Basically, they are saying, we know what we are doing. We are trained to do this. This is our manual. This is our standard operating procedure. This is the case. This is the rules we have applied. And this is the net. So we are authorized. We have proper arrest warrant to arrest the soul of Ajamil and punish it. So the next chapter, which is chapter 2, is where the Vishnudutas start responding to the claims made by Yamadutas, where they give a knowledge higher than what the Yamadutas had, and where they explain to them the glories of the holy name of the Lord. So it's a very, very beautiful discussion. So Ajamil is listening to all of this. So first, I think after he has heard, what we discussed in today's class, he must have really become very scared. Because all his account of all his sinful activities have been recounted. But now that Vishnudutas have come, there is a good ray of hope for him. So we will continue with the discussion. So please do not miss the subsequent classes, because a lot of beautiful, deep lessons to learn. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. It's almost 10:10. So we'll take a few questions if you have, and then we can continue. Yeah, Suresh Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. So Emeraj is also controller of Tamagun, just like Lord Shiva. I'm just asking, not really.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
I mean, he's not in charge of Tamogun. No, but I mean, he himself is transcendental. Yamaraj is the son of Surya Dev.
Okay.
He is the brother of Yamuna Devi. He's a very saintly person. He is the king of the Pitris. So Yamadutas are very scary. Yamaraj, of course, he's not ugly. Yamaraj, generally nobody likes to see him or encounter him. But of course, in case any of us happen to encounter him, then we should see him as a great Vaishnava, because he is one of the 12 Mahajanas. So if we get, I mean, not because of sinful reasons, not because of performing sinful activities, but if in some situation we get to see Yamaraj, offer obeisances, take the dust of his feet and ask him for his blessings and take his association, because he is Paramhamsa Mahabhagavad. He came in this world as Vidura. He incarnated in the Mahabharata as Vidura, Leave, and came as Vidura. At that time, I think it was Aruna who was doing the job of Yamaraj. Something like that. I forget all the details. He had a replacement for a short time.
Other question.
Yeah.
What are these 8 directions which you said? We know 4, right? 8 directions you are mentioning in today's class.
Yeah, northeast, northwest.
Okay.
Southeast, southwest. Great.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Santanam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. This Vishnu Tuda is also having Sangha and Chakra. So the chakra is only belongs to Vishnu, or that chakra is different and these chakras are different?
I would think it would be different. Sudarshan is exclusively of the Lord, but they have a chakra also. So actually, the amazing thing about Vaikuntha is that the forms of the Vaikuntha Vasis and that of Lord Narayana is very identical. The bodily form and the bodily features. That is why it is known as Sarupya Mukti. Sarupya Mukti means their forms are practically like Narayan. But Lord Narayan has, of course, his beauty and opulence is more. And also he has the Kaustuba Mani on his chest. He has the Shrivatsa mark on his chest. And he has a beautiful Vaijayanti garland. So there are certain distinguishing marks. But it is easy to see a Vishnu Duta and misunderstand him to be the Supreme Personality of God. In fact, there are some pastimes where this has happened. And the Vishnu Duta says, no. I am not the boss. I am here only to take you to meet the boss. I am only servant. So that is Sarupya Mukti. So even in Vaikuntha, this kind of opulence is available, where one has a bodily form like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all mystic opulences and spiritual perfections. Also in the Vaikuntha Lokas, it is said one has a consort also. So, there are husband-wife pairs. So the wife is, also very beautiful and, decorated in a similar manner. They are flying on Vaikuntha plains, but they are busy chanting the glories of Lord Narayan. Beautifully displayed. Yeah, so all these, they are carrying Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, but the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma of Lord Narayan is distinct and his own specific. Kaumodaki Mace, Saranga Bow, Sudarshan Chakra. What is the name of his sword? I forgot. And his conch shell, lotus. I do not remember the names, but they all have very unique belongings, paraphernalia of the Supreme.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I have another thing. Maybe the question is previously you might have answered, but again, it just popped up in my mind. It's like when a child is in our home and it is sick, what we will do, we will avoid ice cream or chocolate or anything which is most attractive to them. So same way, the Lord, when He created and we are with the three gunas, He would have avoided all these lusty things. But why He kept those things and making us attracted towards that materialistic things? We are falling into the trap.
He actually doesn't make us attracted, we are getting attracted. He, through the instructions of the scriptures, gives us clear instructions of what to do, what not to do. The problem is when we defy his orders and become overcome by lust. It is said, right? Arjuna said, what is it that forces a person to transgress dharma and commit sin? Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samadbhava. When lust becomes strong, then one disregards the instructions of the Lord. So just like you gave that example of the child, right? So the child is told nicely by the parents, don't eat this, don't do this, you have cold, don't eat ice cream. The child is crying and crying and crying, I want ice cream, I want. On crying. Finally, what the parent will do? Okay, take. He's not learning by my telling him. The only way he'll learn is let him do it, let him suffer. And then he will understand. So this is called second class intelligence. First class intelligence means what he's told, he understands, accepts and follows. Second class is doesn't understand by telling, he has to experience it, then he learns. Oh, sorry papa, sorry mommy, I should have listened to you, now my throat is spoiled. And third class means even after getting spoiled, next time they'll still eat ice cream and again get spoiled. Again they'll get well, again they'll do the same thing again, they never learn. So those who are rebellious, Krishna has given free will to everybody. Krishna gives good instruction, but he doesn't put force. And that we all see also in our own lives. At the end of the day, even for us, for our own children, we also have limited influence, right? They are very young, we can control to some extent. At the end of the day, as they grow up, they will exert their own free will to decide. So that is the inbuilt mechanism, and that is the basis of free will. So the Lord doesn't put us in illusion. He facilitates our desire. If we want to forget him, he has to give us the facility to forget him. If we want to disobey him, then he has to give us. Yeah, does it answer your question?
Thank you, Prabhuji. And maybe the last one, each will have a unique ID, like how when Brahma is created, the ID would be transferred to other departments or like a birth certificate, something. Is there any reference? Is there for now in our case, in the case Ajamila, we are saying, but this name is given by the parents. But is there any reference or mechanism the reference of each soul communicated when it is created? It will be transferred to other departments or other part of the system. I'm not sure. I'm just asking for it. Yes.
I do not know how exactly they track, but there is a subtle connection even between the name and the personality. Even for us in this life. And that is why even the name, because the name is attached to the body, at a subtle level, there are many connections. So that's why even when we do some offerings, sometimes we just take the name of the person. just by taking the name of that person or remembering that person at a subtle level, the offerings are tagged, the ID. There is there's a clear identification tag from the name and from the thought and from the remembrance to that particular individual. So that is how the Shraddha offerings are transferred. That is how the various offerings of the pujas and other things are transferred. How exactly that works, of course, we don't know. But at a subtle plane, that connectivity is there. So, of course, ultimately, what is the ID? The ID is the soul. So Yamaraj and the Devatas and his agents have the power to assess the accounts, the logs since time immemorial of every living entity. So, by the grace of the Paramatma, that power has been granted to them, and so the ultimate ID is the soul, because all other things will change. Because karma is also temporary. The material modes are also temporary. The material bodies are also temporary. Karmas also, after having enjoyed, they will disappear, or after having suffered, they will disappear. So everything else is changeable. Ultimately, it is the individual soul. Yeah. Ultimately, all tracking and facilitation is ultimately done by the super soul, because all living entities have their own limitations. So Yamaraj can do what he can do because he is connected to the super soul and he is given access. Just like, how do I have access to all of you right now? Do I have any power? I am connected to the internet. You all are connected to the internet. So we are connected by the grace of the internet. Correct? It's neither my power nor is it your power. So the unlimited internet which spans all material existence, the Paramatma network, which is in each and every atom. Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. So he who can access the super soul can, by the grace of the super soul, access all information. So these devatas basis that kind of connection. They have such immense powers. They are given the necessary knowledge to do their job. But no need to worry. The ID is safely calculated. So don't worry. Don't worry. You will not get somebody else's punishments. And even if that happens, that also is part of your karma, because you must, in that case, then that person would have stolen somebody else's credits in a previous life. So ultimately, the Lord system is just. Everything is properly accounted for. I can't hear you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Thank you.
There you go. So you are safe. No need to worry. You will go to the Supreme Abode. Don't have to worry.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Tarun Prabhu, you want to ask something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have actually one question. In the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hari means the feminine energy of Lord Krishna, that is, means Radharani. Is the Radharani is depicting Maya? That's where just wanted to know.
No. Radharani is the original Parashakti.
Mm-hmm.
There are three kinds of energies of the Lord. We discussed this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? There is Para, Apara, and Tatastha. Tatastha is the Jivas, all of us. Apara is the material energy, Durga. And Para is the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy is divided into three parts, or has three aspects, to be more specific. It is Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladhini. Three aspects: existence, knowledge, and bliss. So the bliss potency, which is the Ladhini aspect, the condensed, the essence of bliss is, the essence of Ladhini is Prem. And the most essence of Prema is Mahabhav. And Radharani is Mahabhav Swarupini. So in very simple words, the very, very original first energy of the Lord, which is the spiritual energy from which all other energies come, is Radharani. So you could even call her like the Adi Parashakti.
Adi Parashakti.
You can call her in that way. Some other traditions refer to some other goddesses as Adi Parashakti, but in our context, she is the original spiritual potency. Okay.
Prabhuji, one last general question.
Yeah.
Whenever we go to ISKCON temple, there is a signboard that you should not take picture with the Lord. Why it is not allowed in general?
You can take picture of the Lord, but you don't take selfie with the Lord. It is considered
Self
disrespect.
correct. But why
You don't show your back, because selfie means you're showing your back, you're taking a picture, you're treating the Lord like a,
object?
Like a mundane, so it is disrespectful.
Got it.
That way, yeah. So you can take a photo of the Lord, but we don't take selfies. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Because there are so many beautiful photos, that's why we are posting so many beautiful photos.
No, that's there, Prabhu. Actually, I was means whenever we go there, they generally do not allow for selfies. So yeah, selfie is the right.
Because people are not interested in the Lord. They are interested in showing where I have been.
Correct.
I'm in this restaurant, I'm on this beach, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's all me.
True.
And Lord is a decoration next to us. That kind of consciousness is offensive.
True. I got your point.
The Lord is the object. We are the the Lord is the ultimate ashray. We are his servant. So we should have that mentality. We do not make God as a decoration in a picture where we are the center.
Makes sense. Yeah.
If you are offering obeisances to the Lord and somebody from behind takes a picture of you offering obeisances to the Lord, there's no problem. Yeah, but that whole idea of selfie, the consciousness behind the selfie is the problem. It's not the selfie itself. So you see the kind of mentality people have. The whole problem of the whole consciousness which is surrounding this whole social media and all this about I, me, mine. They think like, that it's like some kind of a kirtan that is going on about this. I'm eating this now, I'm here now, I'm doing this now. As if, there is some Ashtakaliya Leela. Like Krishna is doing morning, Krishna did this. Today for noon, Krishna had this in lunch. You see the whole consciousness. So if we analyze deeply, we realize these kind of activities are only making us more and more attached to the false ego. Because we want everybody to think, oh, how I am so wonderful. Everybody focus on what I am doing, how I am the enjoyer, how I am the controller, how I am so wonderful. So these kind of things are against the principles of devotion. It is not sinful, but it is not progressive for the spiritual. You understand the point?
Got your point.
Yeah. So for us, we are interested in Hari Katha, Hari Kirtan. We are not interested in being the center. We are interested in accepting Krishna as the center for ourselves and also in our preaching to help others realize Krishna in the center. Maya can be so tricky that we may be preaching, but rather than making Krishna as the center, we are trying to make ourselves as the center of our preaching. That also is another kind of illusion. So Maya is so powerful that it can bewilder living entities at any stage. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. And we'll continue our class on Tuesday, the CC class, Krishna willing. And we'll continue discussing about Ajamil's past. And please read, there's so many beautiful information in the purports, the Bhagavatam. Thank you. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद।
Thank you very much,
Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Ashwin, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari. Sapna ji, Shalini ji, Pooja Mata ji.
Hari Bol.
Suraj,
Thank you.
Bhaskar.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you for all those who are showing their faces, smiling faces.
Hari Bol.
Happy
Hari
to
Bol.
see.
Deepavali here.
Yes, Deepavali Mataji, thank you so much for joining. Anand Sundari Mataji, Archana ji, Pooja Mataji, Hare Krishna. Ankan, Anand Sundari. So I'll see you all